Hello and welcome to Learn, Do, Become Radio, episode 86. I'm April Perry, and today is lesson 3 of our step-by-step home organizing party. We're talking about how to determine your highest value activities to help you reach your goals. Now, if you have not yet signed up for our party, it's 9 lessons to really help you to build a strong foundation so you can have a clean, organized home and a calm mind. We introduced the party back in episode 83, and then lesson 1 and lesson 2 are the 2 prior podcasts. And today, the outcome vision is to help you to clear up your schedule and help you to feel more excited about your daily work. I want you to wake up excited and go to bed content so you can have the bandwidth to organize your home. And you can get all of the bonuses that go with this lesson, prior lessons, and future lessons by signing up at learndobecome.com/party. And every episode has the show notes page at learndobecome.com/episode 86 is for this one. Every number has its own URL. We're all set up for you, and we're so glad that you're here. Now, when we started this organizing party, we did not jump right into organizing on purpose. It doesn't help for me to say, here's how you organize your bathroom and your kitchen and your pantry. And I'm not even actually so great at all the details and all the specifics of organizing. What I can show you how to do is how to set up a framework that helps you to create order in your entire life. So your mind is completely calm, you can be completely present, and you can move forward on the things that matter most to you without sacrificing relationships. Today, we're going to be talking a lot about relationships because I can't talk about highest value activities without including those of family, close friends, the people in our lives. It becomes really easy to get caught up in money or checking things off lists or all the external ways that we're often showing that we're, successful, valuable, whatever. But when you actually can look at your life and consider your highest value activities, including relationships, including the things that are going to matter most to you at the end of your life, it's actually pretty amazing. So what we did start with was lesson 1 was our daily routine. Lesson 2 is putting out fires and taking care of ourselves. We've got some great printouts for all of those, where we have a routines list that you can print out. We have a worksheet to help you identify fires in your life and, get rid of the stuff that feels really urgent. And we have some great self-care resources for you. We call it the stabilizing mechanism. So if you haven't checked those out, they're all on our party home base. You just sign up. Again, learndobecome.com/party. So to help you to determine your highest value activities, I've put together a very simple step-by-step process, and we have an accompanying worksheet inside our party. So make sure you sign up. But the reason why I want to talk about it is because it's so easy for us to either just go with the flow and do what everyone else is doing, or to maintain past habits. And well, I've always done it this way, so I'll just keep doing it that way. Or maybe to freeze up when things get hard or things feel uncertain and you wonder, I don't even know what to do. I'll just do nothing, right? But when we can actually step back and look at our daily activities and look at our choices and look at our habits and look at the results that we're getting from our lives, it's pretty amazing to see the progress that we can make. One of the books I talk about all the time is Essentialism by Greg McKeown. And in that book, he talks about your highest level of contribution. What is that? And I'm not going to obviously define it for you because everyone needs to define that for themselves, but I do want to offer some different perspectives than what we often find out there. So I'll share the way I look at it and hopefully just give you some questions to consider so that you can feel really good about the choices that you're making and know that whatever it is you're doing it deliberately. You're not just doing it because everyone else is or because someone told you to, okay? All right, so let's start with step number 1. I want you to write down your main goals right now. I'm thinking maybe 3 to 5. But what are the top things that you are working on? For me, things like having really great health, having a really strong family, being closer to God, being able to work on these projects that can serve the world in a deeper way, learning how to invest and how to use our financial resources wisely so we can give and serve. We consider ourselves stewards over the money that we have. So those are just a few things that I'm thinking about right now. But I want you to think about the categories of your life, at least one for you, like that me category, one for your family, something you want to achieve more. For us, when I say building a strong family, it's more like getting the nuances of the family dynamics and the relationships, kind of getting those working a little better, a little more specific. And then something in that beyond category, something for business or employment, or something in a volunteer category. Because it's great to have something that you're working on specifically that's going to help you develop either professionally or in a way where you're serving in a volunteer capacity. Okay, I call it Me, My Family, Beyond. And every month I have projects inside Me, My Family, Beyond. All right, but this is just, these goals don't have to be the end-all, be-all goals. They don't need to be huge goals. But I do want you to have a few of them written down. The things that you know you need to change. And maybe another way to phrase it, or another way to ask the question, is what is that whisper that you are hearing from your future self? I heard, and I don't even know who said it, or I would totally give them credit, but they said your future self is whispering in your ear, telling you what you can become. And your job is to identify what you need to do in order to become that person. I know I'm paraphrasing that poorly, but it was something like that. But I think about that so often, those little whispers that you hear. And maybe it's when it's quiet at night, or maybe it's when you're out walking, or maybe it's when you're doing laundry or something like that. But there's often these little whispers that will help you to know that you need to go in a certain direction. It's like a call that you feel. Something that's lifting you to a higher plane, to a better life. It's probably that same voice that's brought you here to learn, do, become. Because you don't listen to podcasts about learning, doing, and becoming and architecting a life of excellence and trying to live your purpose and do what matters most. You don't listen to podcasts like that if you don't care, if you don't feel these whisperings of this wise purpose, something that you know you need to change. But I really think that in order to determine highest value activities, you've got to know where you're going. So if you don't already have goals written down, I encourage you, even pause the podcast, write it down, take some time and make that a priority. Or you can do it later. We'll listen to the rest of us. But I'm really excited for you to just have those goals kind of locked in. All right, step number 2. Then what we do all the time, following the example of David Allen, who wrote the book, Getting Things Done, I want you to identify what it would look like if each of those goals were wildly successful. What would it look like if I had amazing health? What would it look like if my family were stronger than I could even imagine, right? What would it look like if all of my investments were just organized and the decision-making processes were already in place? What would that look like? Just asking yourself. I'm putting together some lessons for our STEP program in Spanish right now to help people who are entrepreneurs, building businesses, and trying to lift themselves out of poverty. That's one project that I have it's on my next in line list. But this is a goal that I have, is to be able to take the things that we're teaching here at Learn to Become and help make that more broad throughout the world. But I need to actually identify, well, what would that look like? How many people would be using it? Where would they be using it? Who would be teaching them? What would the materials look like? How would they access those materials if they didn't have computers or smartphones? I mean, there's all these little details that go behind a project or goal, right? And I've talked before about Dr. Don Wood. He was a guest on our podcast a few months ago. And he has a program at Inspired Performance Institute, and I will link to that in the show notes page. It's amazing. I still go through his program like over and over again. It's so good. So good. But he teaches you how you can actually train your brain and recover from trauma, and it helps me to handle my stress better. It's been so good. Okay. And I've really put a lot of time into it, but I will tell you it works. But one of the things that he says over and over again in his audios, there's like this 28-day audio series you listen to, and that's what I'm listening to right now. But he talks about how you need to be specific. He says it over and over again. Be specific, because our brains need to know exactly what we're looking for. The more specific we are, the more successful we're going to be. Another thing that I've learned is as I've been studying more and more about how our brains work, because I'm so fascinated by it, and because neuroscience, I just feel like now a lot of neuroscientists are coming online and sharing their information in ways that the rest of us can access it, which is amazing. But one of the things that I learned is that how you can actually create your reality. And, we've heard things like the book, The Secret, or people talk about manifesting. I mean, there's lots of ways you can describe it. But one of the ways that really makes sense to me is thinking about the parallel with those Where's Waldo books. Have you ever had one of those? Or we used to get them for our children. I think we got the whole set, like at Sam's Club or something like that. So we have all these Where's Waldo books. And what happens is you're looking for Waldo in each of these scenes. But there's lots of things that look like Waldo. You just need to be more discerning. And then you get to the end of the book and they say, now go back and we want you to find all these other things too. Go find his binoculars and go find this. And they give you all these things to find that you weren't even looking for before. Okay. But the reason why I love it is because the way that your brain knows how to find Waldo is because you have this little picture of Waldo in your brain, and then you're scanning through the picture looking for a match. All right. But I like to think about it like that for the bigger world. When I have a very clear picture of the kind of family I want to create, or the kind of business that I want to run, or the kind of life I want to lead, or even how I want my kitchen organized, whatever it is, right? The purpose you want to leave, the legacy you want to leave. When you really have a clear picture, then as you go throughout your day, you're scanning your world to find things that match those pictures. So when you're looking for podcasts to listen to, when you're looking for the right books to read, you're trying to choose the very best leaders to follow. You're looking for maybe the church you're going to join, or you're looking for whoever it is that's going to help you, or whatever it is that's going to help you reach your goals. You're going to align what you find with this vision you have for yourself, just like when you're looking for Waldo. And so it's so amazing. The more specific you have your dream, the more specific your findings will be. One real quick story, back in like 15 years ago, I made this little binder and I put on the binder what I wanted like my ideal bedroom to look like. Okay. And I even found some photos of fabrics, and I put them in the binder. I'm like, oh, this would be awesome to have like this bedspread and this pillow. Okay, it was the weirdest thing. I put the binder away for years, didn't even look at it, found this pillow and bedding set at some store one time, brought it home. It was on sale. I came home, put it on my bed. I was so excited. And then about a year later, I opened up the binder and saw that it was the exact same fabric. And it was so weird. I totally hadn't remembered it, but it's amazing. So the step 2, really identifying what specifically it would look like if each of your goals were wildly successful. It's pretty amazing what an impact that's going to have on your life. And I love the phrase about fulfilling the measure of our creation. Each one of us, I believe, was created for something very specific, or for maybe a lot of somethings that are very specific. You have unique talents and gifts. And when you can actually tap into that and be able to say, okay, why was I created? Why am I here? I don't think it's just to sit around and watch TV. I don't think it's to hide under the covers and pretend like, nothing to do. I don't think it's to throw your bills in the trash and pretend like you don't have to pay them, or pretend like you don't have a purpose and keep going on a job that you hate. I don't think so. And so just being able to tap into that hopefully will be helpful for you. All right, let's go ahead and jump into step 3. Now I want you to ask yourself, what are the low value activities that are keeping you from achieving these goals? Okay, sometimes this will strike at your heart. So I'll tell you about a time I did this. Back in 2016, Eric and I were not where we wanted to be in like any area of our lives. We were extremely frustrated. We had a lot of blessings, a lot of good things, a lot of sweet moments. This was back when I was saying goodbye to my mother. When she passed away from Alzheimer's, our children were, obviously younger, but we were not where we wanted to be. And there was a lot of negative energy in our lives. We were complaining. We were frustrated. We were like, things are not working. We were putting in so many hours and it wasn't going well. Okay. So that's where we were back in 2016. We did, however, have the opportunity to take a trip, and we were on an airplane. And on that airplane, I took one page of my notebook and I wrote down what my ideal life would look like in 2020. And I wrote it so specifically, like extremely specifically for what you could fit on one page. But I built this vision. I said, this is what I want for 2020. And as I was writing it, it felt like a pipe dream. I'm like, sure, yeah, whatever. Part of me totally didn't believe it. I'm like, why am I even doing this? But I've learned the power of creating a vision throughout my whole life. And so I knew it was important. But then on the second page, I wrote down, okay, given what I want, what do I need to stop doing? What's something that absolutely has got to go? And at the top of my list, it was stuff like, Eric and I have to stop complaining to each other. We will spend hours just talking about all the things that are not going right. I mean, hours every week, complaining, frustrated. And I think in our minds, we were thinking, oh, we're just talking through it. We're just discussing the needs. No, we weren't. We were complaining. We needed to take that energy and put it towards actually doing something about it, because sitting around and complaining to each other was not helping. And I think partly it felt kind of good just to have validation, like, oh, isn't this bad? Oh, isn't this hard, right? And so we felt like we had this validation from each other maybe, but it was not helpful. And so I wrote down on this paper, I'm going to stop wasting time complaining, procrastinating, putting things off, putting myself in the middle, right? All these things. Anyway, okay. So that was what my process looked like. But I want you to do the same thing. Look at your life right now, and no one needs to see this, but I want you to look at it with a critical eye and say, what am I doing that's really not serving me, right? I mean, right now in my life, I am simplifying my tasks here at Learn, Do, Become, because my health suffers when I do too much. And I'm pretty sure yours does too. But I found that the business actually does better when I am more focused and when I don't just try to cram too much into my day. Also thinking like on a family level, what are the low value activities that are taking over our time together? Is there bickering? Is there some discipline problem going on? Too many screens, either me looking at my phone or screen, or one of the children or children being on screens, right? Or even just being on screens together. Are we just kind of numbing things with the screens? Are we avoiding hard conversations? Or are we just still saying, oh, I'm just so busy, all the stuff to do? It's funny because with everybody, at the time I'm recording this in April, everyone's at home right now. So we're sitting in our homes, our chrysalises, but we're all here in our homes and we are, not as busy as we were. But I found it's funny the kinds of excuses that I will see myself making or family members making, and they'll start to say it. And then they're like, wait, no, I can't use that excuse anymore. So it's really, it's helpful to look past the excuses, look past what you want to believe and actually say, all right, what are my low value activities? What's a waste of time right now? What should I not be doing? And even thinking about the things that you might love that still might be low value activities for your life. That's so hard. There's the book Necessary Endings by Henry Cloud. I think I've mentioned it before. So good. It talks about how your life's like a rose bush and you have to prune a rose bush in order to get the best roses. Same thing with our lives. What are those low value activities where even if you love them, they are taking energy from the things that you need to be doing? I think those are the hardest ones to trim or edit from our lives because there's a lot of things I love. Oh my goodness. So many things that I've wanted to do. One I'll just share briefly. So I had this idea. I don't know if I shared this on the podcast before, but I wanted to invent a club called the Rollerblading Introverts Club. Okay. Let me give you the tagline. Let's skate alone together. Isn't that fun? I even had a Facebook group image made for it so I could start it as a Facebook group. We're going to do the Rollerblading Introverts Club. And the reason why I want to do it is because I love rollerblading with a passion. Oh my gosh. I went this morning. I drove 2 hours today to try to get to a store that had a pickup so I can get my son some rollerblades because he grew out of the ones we had. But okay, rollerblading, I can go every day. I love it so much. I especially love doing it alone, and I love putting in an audiobook or a podcast and listening while I skate. It's like therapeutic. I come home on a high. I think it is amazing. I love it so much. So I wanted to start this rollerblading introverts club because I thought, hey, we could talk about where we skated that day and what audiobook we listened to or what podcast we're listening to. We could have this club and we're all rollerblading introverts. And while we're out skating, we just know everyone else is doing it too. So we're going to feel this endorphin. I don't know. I thought it was going to be awesome. And I mean, you probably even hear my voice as I'm talking about it. I get kind of giddy because I think that it sounds like so much fun. But as I was looking at my life and after I got the, little image that I was going to put on Facebook, I'm like, is that really where my energy needs to go right now? Is running a rollerblading introverts club? Really? Really? I mean, as fun as it is, there's other things that need my time and attention. And that club may come at some point, but this was like 3 years ago when I wanted to do it. It was not the right time, okay? So it was a little hard to cut that out, but I can still rollerblade. I can still have fun. And I'm, the only member of the club right now. If you guys want to join, though, I might even put a little post on our Learn to Become Facebook page so we could just have like an informal club, just so I know you're out there. Okay, I'll stop. But that was the end of number 3. Write down, what are the low value activities? What is your rollerblading introverts club that you want to start? What's that thing that you are either wanting to do or things that you know that you need to stop doing? Okay, you're going to write those down. Okay, now we're going to move on to step number 4. Now, I want you to imagine that you already have those things that we talked about earlier, the goals that were wildly successful, what we talked about in steps 1 and 2. Imagine that's already the case. That's your reality right now. Then I want you to ask yourself, okay, assuming that you're in that spot, you already have them, what kinds of things did you do to get there? Okay. And you've probably heard a question like this asked before. We do this at so many of our business conferences, and I love it so much. The book Atomic Habits I've been talking about by James Clear, so good. He said a girl wanted to get healthier, and so she would just ask herself every day, what would a healthy person do right now? And then just by asking that question, it helped her make better food choices, better exercise choices. I don't know what else she was doing, but she was doing what she thought a healthy person would do. Another thing you can do is think about someone that you know who already does what you want really well. Maybe someone that's running a business the way you want to run it. Someone who is just creating these awesome relationships in the neighborhood or with families, within their own families. And you're just like, oh, I want to be just like that person. But what would they do in that situation, right? So we're going to make that little list saying, okay, if I want to really do the activities that are going to help me reach my goals, then by definition, these are going to be our highest value activities. So we can look at those people we admire and write them down. All right, but I want to give a little bit more. I'm actually going to include a few stories on this because this is where I went wrong so many times. And I want to save you the pain and anguish and frustration that I went through by learning from my mistakes, okay? Now, the challenge is that often when we say, oh, what would a healthy person do? Or, what would this awesome parent do? A lot of times we come up with the wrong answers. And so this is where we do need research, trial and error, experience. There's a little more to this than just writing down what we think we know. All right, for example, I used to think healthy people ate hardly anything. I was raised in a home where I counted calories from the time I was 9, and I was congratulated for it because everyone was counting calories. I pretty much starved myself whenever I wanted to lose weight, and that included being 9, 11, 12, 14. Like it was pretty bad. And so I have periods of my life from, my childhood, 9 to 14 especially, when I can remember purposely starving myself and thinking that I was doing a good job. Like, I didn't think there's a problem. I just thought, oh yeah, I'm doing a good job counting my calories. And I would eat like 700 calories or something like that because I thought I would be winning if I did. Okay, I don't do that now. I've learned that restricting my food and trying to win a contest of not eating, that's not for me and that's not healthy. So now I eat about 10 servings of vegetables a day. I don't eat crackers and cheese at night. I don't eat all those foods that like the comfort foods. I'm really, really careful, but I'm enjoying wonderful foods that are healthy, tons of produce and foods that are not processed. I love that. Okay. And I'm not going to get into food here because this isn't a food podcast, but now the question that I ask is, what are the foods that I can eat that will help me fuel my body and will show gratitude to God for the body I have. And then every day I make sure that the way I'm caring for my body, that I could, if needed, report back to God and say, I took as good care of my body as I possibly could have. And I study and research and learn and trial and error, but my results are different than they were when, I was 9, 10, 11. What I thought I should do really wasn't working for me. It did help me lose weight for a period, and then it kind of didn't work very much anymore, and I have to starve myself more. I mean, it's like I can't even talk about it. It's so sad. But now I feel so good. I eat foods that fuel me. I love it. It's a different thing, okay? All right. Also, I want to share just a business story. In a business, I previously thought that it was the outward numbers that made the difference. The numbers of people following on social media, your number of podcast downloads, your video views, etc. And a lot of times you can look around and see people with big numbers, right? What do they call them? Vanity numbers. You see that. And I thought that that was what I was shooting for, okay? But even though those things can be helpful to a business, the actual workings of the business, the systems, the people, the messaging, the marketing, those things are actually more critical to the overall health of the company. I talked with a friend one time and said, hey, I'm really trying to, get this certain social media thing a little higher. And he was like, why? Because I did that and look, and he showed me like the screenshot of all these numbers he had and this had rankings and how it was amazing. He's like, that did nothing for my business, like nothing. And so anyway, it was super interesting. So what I've learned is when I invest my time and energy in our business, my highest value activities are doing things like, what are the actual systems that are fueling the business? And getting that messaging, that marketing system, the delivery, the products, those types of things. I've also worked with Eric a lot, working with a variety of coaches. And what every single coach, we've worked with, maybe 10 different coaches over the past several years. All of them have encouraged us to only do the work that we can uniquely do, and then delegate like as much as possible, everything else, okay? And focus on our highest value activities. But I need to pause here, and this is where I want to transition a little bit and talk about families. One of the things that's felt a little bit lonely, I think, for me, is when I go to business conferences, it is very rare to hear anybody who's talking about how they balance their business efforts with their family. A lot of times it's an either or it's like not at all. We don't talk about kids, that type of thing. And what I hear a lot of, and I've been hearing a lot of for most of my life, which is why I think I've hesitated coming into a business setting, is that you kind of have to choose. Are you going to be a great parent, or are you going to run a great business? And if you're going to run a great business, it makes all the sense in the world to 100% hire out every family-related thing and just focus on that business. You got to get that drive and put those hours in. And, I can get $1,000 for a speaking thing, and I could pay someone $10 to babysit my children during that speaking thing, right? You start hearing things like that. But what I do want to comment on is that when we make our decisions, I want us to make the decisions stepping back and acknowledging that really at the end of our lives, it's our families and our relationships that are going to matter the most. Really, there's no one on their deathbed. You've probably heard this before, saying, I wish I'd spent more time at the office. And having just said goodbye to my dad and had his virtual funeral with all my siblings last week, I was just there at the funeral of my own father, and not one of us, when each of us went around and shared our stories, we're talking about how he designed awesome hotels in Hawaii, or, how he's a partner in the firm. Like, that's not what we were talking about. We were talking about how much we felt he loved us and the moments we had together, our relationship. And he was busy working full-time, supporting a big family. But it's these family relationships that really matter. But I feel so passionate about this because back when I was trying to figure out, who am I? What am I doing? When I was first becoming a mom, I felt like something was missing. Like I had energy and ideas and things I wanted to do, and I wanted to write books, and I had all the stuff I wanted to do. I didn't know about podcasting back then, but I felt like, I don't want to leave my kids. And I would talk with so many people, and there was such a feeling that home and family is drudgery and torture and bondage. And I don't feel that way in the least. I feel like it is such a privilege to get to have a family and be part of a family. And so what I want to do is, I'm not trying to, create a war or critique, because, lots of people in my own family who have had to make decisions based on their circumstances that maybe wouldn't have been ideal for them, that they didn't want. Anyway, okay, so I want to continue on and move on with this, but I need to be able to use this platform as a way to be able to say it is 100% possible to build a strong, solid business without sacrificing the cherished moments, those precious experiences with your family. Also, just want to share a quick story from the other day. So a couple days ago, I was rollerblading with Spencer. He's 12, and he wanted to go down the main street in our city. And so it's like, okay. And as we're getting there, we're on this little sidewalk. And I said, I either need to go behind you or in front of you, but we can't really skate side by side on the sidewalk because it's so narrow and I can't move my skates. He said, okay, I'll go right behind you. So he was behind me, but he likes to talk and he's super verbal and just has so much awesome stuff to talk about. And so we were talking and talking and talking. And he's like, Mom, I really can't hear you very well when I'm behind you. Or in front of you, you can't hear me. So as we got to the main street of our city, the sidewalk was wider. And he said, well, now can we skate side by side? And I said, sure. So he came up and was skating next to me, and he's like, hey, I want to hold your hand. And so he holds my hand, and he and I are skating down the main street holding hands. And I've got my helmet and all of my gear on and my turtle pants, so if I fall, it doesn't hurt. Anyway, and I was thinking, goodness, he's 12 years old. Is he going to be so embarrassed? Like he's skating with his mom holding hands? But all these people, it wasn't super crowded. There were a few people there, and they were smiling at us and like, oh, that looks like fun. We're getting a little bit of attention, but it was okay. And I just loved it. And he said, Mom, this is my definition of joy. And when he said that, I was like, you know what? This is absolutely my definition of joy. And I had put off some things I needed to do in the business in order to go and be with him. But it was so beautiful being fully present, being out there with my 12-year-old, rollerblading together and holding hands. And I said, Spencer, can I talk about this on the podcast? I'm recording an episode about our highest value activities. And I want to talk about how it is so valuable to spend time with our children. Can I mention you and say your name was Spencer and not just say one of the kids? And he's like, well, if you pay me $1. And I started laughing. I was like, okay, can I tell them that I paid you $1 to say your name? And he said, well, if you pay me another $1. And then I'm cracking up. So we're skating and I'm laughing and I'm like, okay, can I say that we held hands? And he's like, that'll be $5. And so then I'm busting out. I'm laughing so hard. I'm like, all right, so for $7, I can tell this story on the podcast. And he's like, yep. And so we keep skating and I'm just laughing. Oh my gosh, cracking up. And then I hear him say, easiest $7 I ever made. Anyway, that's become this little joke in our family. So this story was brought to you by Spencer, who I paid $7. Anyway, but that moment, I can't even tell you. Of course, rollerblading I love anyway, but being with him and having him want to hold my hand and having him say, this is my definition of joy. I don't want you to miss out on those types of things because you feel like you have all this other stuff you need to do and you're keeping busy doing low value activities in other areas of your life. There's a book called The Time Bind. I believe the author is Arlie Hochschild, and I read it back in college in my favorite class about work and relationships in the home. But as I read this book, The Time Bind, it was talking about how everyone says they're busy and they have no time for the guitar and no time to have vacations and no time for their family. But they actually tracked people and watched what they did. And people were using their time not wisely, okay? And so I just want to emphasize that it's the relationships that matter. Now, before I close, I want to share just a little bit more of an experience that I had back when Eric and I were living in Northern California. And it was when we just had our first daughter and he was working full time and I was home with Aaliyah. And I was really looking to find my purpose. And the reason I bring this up is because as you are identifying your goals and as you're thinking about how you are using your time and how you are using this blessed life that you have, I want to take you back to where I was at the beginning when I didn't have any direction really. I didn't have a platform. I didn't have any specific topics in mind I wanted to teach. I had no idea where I was going to be putting my energy other than, changing diapers and feeding a baby. That's really all I was doing at that point. And I was hungry. My soul was like hungry to find what's next for me. What can I get excited about? What can I do besides just try to learn how to decorate my apartment, which I didn't have a budget to decorate anyway. I wanted some purpose in my life and I was so hungry for it. Now, at that point in my life, I was looking for God to tell me, oh, here it is. Here's something amazing. And then Oprah's going to call you and all this stuff. I was thinking something amazing was going to drop into my lap. All right. But I'm going to step back a minute and just tell you another quick story. This was with Spencer. He's so funny. I actually didn't pay him for this story, but I don't think he listens to my podcast, so I don't think he'll know. But the other day he said, and this is respectful, it's fine. If he finds out, it's fine. Okay, but he's like, Mom, so I've been thinking about how your people who are building your command centrals, they might not want to go to the store and buy all those things, especially right now. It's kind of hard to go to the store and they might not really know what they need. So I would like to coordinate the drop shipping to send everybody all that they need for a command central. And I said, oh, that's really an interesting idea. And he's like, you don't even need to worry about it at all, Mom. I'll just go take care of it and I'll get all the drop shipping coordinated. Okay, does that sound good? And I'm like, Spencer, hang on. You're 12 years old. You don't have a bank account. You don't understand all the legal terms. You would there's a whole lot that would need to go into this before you just start drop shipping. But he'd heard about someone else who drop shipped and he'd been researching it and he was pretty sure he could do it. And I was like, okay, we're not drop shipping right now. And I can't just turn it over to you right this minute. So he was pretty upset that I wasn't just, turning on the drop shipping. So Spencer is ready to take that on, but we weren't quite ready to hand it over. And so as I think about it, a 12-year-old who wants to drop ship for a company with tens of thousands of people, you wouldn't do that as a business owner. You wouldn't do that, right? Okay. But it was a similar way with me being there saying to God, okay, I'm ready for this purpose. I'm ready. I'm just going to take it right now, right? But instead, this is what I heard. April, what have I already asked you to do that you could do better first? What are the things that you already know you need to be doing, but you're not really doing them? Let's work on that first. And that was really sobering. And so I sat down and I made a list. Okay, well, I know that I need to be doing this and this and this. And I won't tell you everything on my list, but it was basically things that were helping strengthen my spirit and my family. So I wrote them all down, and then that was my to-do list. Those were my highest value activities at that time because I felt that it was important for me to build a strong foundation before I could get more. And so I just encourage you to think about your life and perhaps assess your situation and ask, what could I do better now with what I have so I'll be ready for more? Because once I started really dialing in my life and building that architecture, building that framework that was going to strengthen my spirit and my family consistently, then new ideas came, new opportunities came. And I feel and I've felt lifted every single day. In fact, during that time, Eric and I had a conversation. We were driving from Sacramento to Oakland one day. We had a couple hours in the car, and we were just dreaming about our future life. And we said, wouldn't it be amazing if we could just help the world and we could have our own business and we could work together and we could speak to people all over the world and we could contribute generously to charitable organizations and we could just spend our lives serving? Wouldn't that be amazing if we could do that? And like I talked about that plane ride back in 2016 when I wrote down everything I wanted for 2020. When I look back now on that list that I made, that pie in the sky dream that I put together, every single thing on that list has happened, every single one of them. And I even get choked up whenever I read it because it's such a reminder to me of what our higher power can help us to accomplish in just a few short years. Everything that I had wanted, everything I dreamed about, happened for us in a way that was different than I had intended and had planned. But as I put those highest value activities first, and as I connected with my higher power to identify what they were, and then put my energy into those, it's amazing how all the things that I needed have been given to me and to Eric and to our family. And it's not that our lives are perfect, and it's not that we don't have challenges, but the challenges we used to have that we don't have anymore, like, it's amazing to see how it's happened. And I just feel like God has been so kind. And it gives me confidence that when challenges will come in the future, because I know they will, just like they have in the past, that I know that I have that foundation from which to build. And in your life, more challenges are going to come. They're ahead for all of us. But we don't need to have that feeling of fear, because when we learn how to get through them and we learn how to live our lives as well as we can, there's help. Okay. If you are excited about going through these questions for yourself, we have a worksheet for you. We'll sign up at learndobecome.com/party, because all of the bonuses are inside the party homepage. But you can come to the show notes page, learndobecome.com/episode 86 for a recap of what we talked about. And you can see a little thumbnail of the worksheet. If you are not yet in our STEP program, this, I think, is probably one of the best times you could ever join. Every week, as we're putting out these new lessons for the party, we're also doing a deep dive. We're doing additional coaching inside our Step Mastery Facebook group. We just did our second one yesterday. I'm recording this one on a Friday. We did it yesterday. It's amazing. The community there is outstanding, and we're sharing and talking and asking questions and answering questions. It's fantastic. Plus, even outside of the party, our Steps to Everyday Productivity program is going to help you to be able to get clear on all of your tasks and projects and all the stuff that's in your life. So you have the capacity to think bigger and to be able to bring more of these wonderful things that you want into your life and into your family. So STEP, what it did for me, I felt like it actually helped me prioritize my highest value activities, and it felt like I'd been paying interest my whole life, and then I switched to always paying down principal. You know, if you've ever bought a house or something like that, and you're like, if you do an interest-only loan, you never own any part of the house. You just get to be in the house because you're paying interest. If you pay down principal, then you own more of the house, right? Same thing I felt like with my life. I felt like now, instead of just spinning my wheels and doing a bunch of fluff that never got me anywhere, I was actually doing the things that were helping me achieve my goals. That's what STEP is. That's why I'm so passionate about it and want to help you to build a command central that Spencer may drop ship to you someday. Okay. So the bonus that we have for you is a worksheet to help you walk through these questions. But we also created a little printout poster for you that says, "You've got to believe." And this is like the poster that I have hanging inside my office door right now. Eric and I went to a conference recently, and I heard one of the speakers say something like, if you actually believe something is possible, it unlocks the energy required to make it happen. And when I heard that, I thought, oh my goodness, that is what I want for my life. And so that was the day I started using my Streaks app. I've been every day on that thing. It's so good. I love it. And I asked my daughter Grace to make me a poster where I'm adding a sticker. It's my own little sticker chart, and I get a sticker every time I do something significant that moves me closer to one of my specific key goals. Okay. So the poster for me is for one goal I'm working on, and it's the goal I believed in the least. And so I get a sticker every time I do something that's like out of my comfort zone, but kind of a big deal to make that happen. And so the goal is I'm going to fill in this whole poster. So what we did for you is we created a printable one. It says you've got to believe, and it's got little sections that you can fill in every time you do something that's going to help you towards the goal. So I think you could use it for all your goals. I'd probably just pick it for one. It's a little easier to do on one. But I'm so, so grateful for you. Thank you for being here. I hope that as I've shared some of my thoughts and some things in my life, even if you disagree with me, I hope that it's helped you to be able to ask yourself important questions. Because although our lives are different and our history is different and our goals are different, each of us has high value activities and low value activities in our life. Everything we do doesn't give us the same type of results. And so for you to take that time to identify your highest value activities, to really think about it, think what it would look like, get rid of those low value activities, take them out of your life, and actually make it work with a family. Make it work with your goals. And if you are single, I'm getting a lot of emails from people who say, I don't have a family around me, I'm single, or I live alone. I just send you a huge hug and tell you keep doing all the great things you're doing. And we have a lot of awesome friends for you in our Step Mastery Facebook group, because I feel like what I have to offer, I feel like it's specifically beneficial for people with families as I share these family ideas. But I also know that these principles, what we're teaching in the STEP program, it's helpful for everyone. So I never want anyone to feel that they're left out. But I also just need to be able to speak to the things where I feel like I have something to contribute. So hopefully you guys are all okay with that. As I'm even talking, I'm like, I always second guess myself when I'm recording podcasts. I'm like, oh, should I go back and re-record that or reword or whatever? Because I'm a recovering people pleaser, and I'm always wondering if I'm like upsetting someone or doing something I shouldn't be doing. But if you were part of the last podcast or listened to it, we talked about the word satisfice. You just need to accept something, as acceptable, or say, yep, this is good enough, accept it as good enough, and move on. And so that's what I'm doing, because my goal is to get out here and serve you the best I can. And I know I make mistakes, we all do. But I'm hopeful that as I'm sharing, that as imperfect as this podcast is, that you'll be able to see that I care deeply about you. I want you to live your life well. I want you to reach your goals. And I know that when you actually believe it's possible, it does unlock that energy that's required to make it happen. Have an amazing day. LearnDoBecome.com/party to sign up. And we have links to all of the lessons and related articles and everything. It's so fun. Okay, have a great day. We'll see you soon at LearnDoBecome.com.